28:9 comes in. So anyways, what came to mind was disciples, right? He did not say go, and some of Shulam's stuff helped me with this, but he didn't say go and make Christians of the nation. What he said is go make disciples of the nation, right? So Yeshua was called Rabbi. So not only was our Savior and all, he was also the greatest teacher ever. He demonstrated it and walked it out in front of us for us to see. And the Pharisees, God bless them, they did us a huge favor in testing him left, right, and center, proving who he is, right? We didn't have all those challenges and be able to go back and get into deep details of then he wouldn't be who, he wouldn't have the documented proof of who he was. But anyway, so you go get Proverbs 6:23. The teaching is of the laws of light. In NKJV, the teaching is the light. In ESV, right? So law and teaching. Right? This is law and teaching. Torah means instruction. It's not about a bunch of rules. Right? So disciple is a student. And read Luke 6, was it 6:40? Luke 6:40, Luke 6:40.
Convenience store or something like that. And if their machine doesn't tell them how much change, they pull
You already went online?
phones out for the change. They don't know how to do math.
Oh, it's just the startup.
I'm saying even years ago.
So Luke 6:40, let me get there.
Cursive, people couldn't read my cursive.
It's like Romans 3:31.
I just went in print.
Well, follow me. Let me get this out.
Well, I know, what you're saying.
You're ahead of me.
See,
No, a disciple is not above his teacher, right? And that's very important. But every one, when he is fully trained, will be like his teacher.
Yeah.
So that you take that and you go, those who believe him ought walk as he walked. The same thing. Those two things mean the same thing. So
yeah, not follow after pagan.
anyway, so whenever he said go and make disciples. So he's rabbi, teacher. The law's the teaching, right? Or the instruction. And then we are the disciple or the students. So the thing you cannot do is by faith make the teacher a disciple in our place. You can't do it.
That's right.
It doesn't work that way.
It was a video called Is Nimrod Gilgamesh and Is Gilgamesh Nimrod or something like that. And,
Whoever does not bear his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. Now, having faith that he did the law for you is not bearing your own cross.
Yeah, I understand.
They've got the body of Gilgamesh. So
I mean,
Gilgamesh's
you go to those
they've got it.
anti-Hebrew roots
No, not to
websites,
discredit anybody.
and you find
Not to educate
all the
person.
attacks, I mean, behemoth attacks, just like.
Yeah, I got sent one of those, and then as they were doing it, they said, okay, because there was something about 4th of July being
Dinosaur
pagan,
age, volcano
right?
age,
Which it is.
red-
But it's not,
red-
it's not, and I've explained
How do
that
you
several
know
times. I said,
that
you know
you
what, the
scope?
phone that we're texting
How
on,
do you prove it?
pagan. The computer you mess with, pagan. The car I'm
You know there's a
driving,
bone,
pagan.
bodies.
All of these things are pagan.
Full body, he was preserved.
Where the problem comes in is when something
Or
that is
something
pagan of origin is being used to draw you away from the
It's
Word.
supposed to be a fiction story.
Whenever it's
They followed
replacing
and they found
some of His
bizarre
Word,
food.
like Christmas and Easter, for instance,
Yeah.
now it's
I
bad.
still struggle with that. Go.
Now
saying it's right or
this is
wrong.
more
I'm
fun.
just saying,
That guy's an old fogey, you don't wanna mess
you know,
with
when
him.
they go out and get a rock and says 10 billion years old, how in the world do you know that?
Yeah, I
You can
know.
do coal and mouse and all you want, but are you there? I mean, that's why I look at it.
Oh, I'm there with you.
Oh,
I'm just going.
So I mean, where's the
Yeah.
line
it's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Good, yeah, but
between
But after
grace
watching the video.
and presuming our sin
God
upon
spoke to
Christ?
me. He said,
Well,
if, you know, cause I believe
the,
in
the
God,
whole
I believe
crux
in
of the
Christ coming
situation
back from the dead.
is,
He said, well, if they've
if
got him,
if you're saved, you confess your sin,
why has he
and you
not
have to have a
been
definition of
brought to
sin.
the forefront,
yeah.
so to speak?
It's
No,
the transgression of the law.
I'm with all
Coming
that.
back.
I know,
Not-
but I mean, the crux of the situation
Main
is,
thing is
is
God led you that way.
they
That's
say-
where you need to go, whatever I believe.
if you admit you're a sinner and believe in Jesus, that's all you have to do.
So,
But it's not, it says,
But
if you believe me, you will keep my commandments.
Yes.
and I found.
But-
If you love me, you will keep my, and that's that trying to teach and say, look, it's, you know what, it's not about the rules. It's not about the rules. None of it's about the rules. Jesus gave us the answer in response to the question, what's the greatest of the commandments? First one's love God with all your heart, soul, and mind. That's the first one, and the greatest.
Possible
Yeah.
So
different DNAs that they need to.
whenever you go down through this, the only part of the law that's being
That's
carved
pretty cool.
away
That's a lot of work.
is part that has to do with loving God.
Oh, that's what I enjoyed.
That's all that's being taken,
It's
loving God.
educational too.
You know,
I'm just-
The days he said, come celebrate with me.
Excuse me, I gotta
Is
go
sad.
back before we get
The
started.
time when he says, bring your family and come spend time with me. That's really it. And that's being taken away.
Mhm.
So, who would, you go a little, I don't know if you ever watched Saturday Night Live back in the day, but who's that maybe to say?
Yeah.
Hmm?
Not really.
Zoe needs somebody to make coffee down there.
Good morning, y'all.
Can you go make coffee?
Coffee's
Well, Zoe said, can you send somebody to make coffee?
Oh,
I don't know.
I guess I can make coffee.
It's involved
How
down
much
there.
time do you
I
have?
thought he made it over here.
It is, but they need some in the pot down.
Yeah, for, I guess, whoever wanders in there.
Was Saturday morning by.
I went and made the wrong stuff.
Here you
I went and got the wrong schedule apparently last.
My thoughts.
Tribes.
I wonder if I need
I wasn't sure, but I knew that Devereen did not start with an M.
to. Absolutely. No. Fishing lure. Alright.
More to be fishers than men.
I'm a man. I am a man. Says Eowyn. I am no man.
No man can kill me.
No man can do it.
I am the man.
Go girl.
She was just political.
A lot of the women's rights movements have used that. I'm like, oh dear God, that's not what it was talking about.
Daryl?
Since you know,
Debbie?
hello.
You know
Since we were on that subject, I'll show you something funny that James Anderson sent
They
me.
had a
Okay.
meal there. Breakfast. Well, there's no breakfast. I had 4 Oreos.
We might have to.
Picture Ian McKellen in your mind when you see this. And read it.
Ian
We might have to vote that they scoot the service
Well,
back.
where the
like
heck
30
is-
minutes, 'cause going through a double, this is gonna.
Which one is Ian
You
McKellen?
looked at the reading?
Ian
We're not gonna be,
McKellen.
that's what I'm saying, we're not gonna be able to do anything but read this really fast.
Yeah. Well, you know, we had rushed.
Gandalf
through
the
last
Gay.
week, and we went
That's what
over.
I'm saying, we need more space.
Be here at 8 o'clock.
Well, where the heck did it go?
Now you're getting more into my sleep
Maybe
time.
it was Rhiannon that sent it to me.
I
You
did
know
it.
it was
I could read it.
James. Surely I didn't delete that. Surely I didn't delete that. Oh, there it is. Yeah, Rhiannon sent it to me instead. All right.
This is really gonna be rushed. Here you go, Darren.
Here I go.
This
Hey, you're right.
leaves no room for.
Shadow quacks. Show us the meaning of haste.
Instead of shadow facts,
Yes.
instead of quacks.
Shadow quacks. Speaking of
No,
quacks.
everything in history is just kinda quiet. It's a group. Yeah. You know, I'd bring up something every while, once in a while, just to get conversation. I think everybody's tired and heat and, I don't know, it's just really quiet for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not so fast.
They actually used that
I stayed
I am no
about
man
another hour
thing
a day.
Yeah.
at one of the churches that I was at.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And saying, we women need to be empowered. I'm like, oh dear God.
Empowered.
I was
The
like,
Ruach HaKodesh does that for everybody, okay?
yeah.
We don't need to be worried about gender in that case.
Yeah, I was just like, oh dear God, they're twisting the scripture.
Be empowered.
Yeah.
Tell me what I'll empower if I ever meet Solomon face to face. I'm gonna give him. Excuse me. What for?
If you ever meet who?
Do what?
Solomon, Lamech, you name it. Anybody that's had more than one wife.
I am.
There's everybody in the Bible.
I'm.
A little strong.
If I ever
No.
meet
You can't complain about the
Adam?
coffee if it's made when you get
I'm
here.
gonna kick him right between the legs.
I got confused on what I was putting in there.
Of course, it might get returned.
Yeah. Wake everybody up.
For
Yeah.
being
It's okay.
lackadaisical about the whole
Like for that
fruit
big,
thing.
get
Yeah.
down though, you go.
Oh, I'm gonna be like, dude,
If it flips to the
you were
top, it's
living in
gonna-
paradise.
You're supposed to be watching your wife.
You You were in paradise, dude. You had
Who's in
everything.
charge of putting these on the website?
It's like you had
'Cause we're still so
everything.
in Chicago.
Pow!
Well, they didn't know anything different though. They
Yeah.
had nothing to compare it to. They just thought it was status quo, you know. The
Yeah.
grand ennui is that. I can tell I need to get busy doing some
I
editing.
didn't email that to John. I don't know if anybody ever looks at it.
I don't have one of them that, it's not on the website?
Yeah. Forgot to email
I
it.
do. Well, you know what you could do?
What could I do?
You could have a little, distro list and just email it to us.
That's what I've come up with.
Yeah. What I could
That
do.
from Cobb, DNA.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, if you gotta email it to somebody, you might as well just tack a few people on it.
Mm-hmm.
Minotip, Ivan the Tip. No kidding.
I
Don't forget
I'll never look at my email.
Martell.
Got some in here.
That's
Wait.
what Pamela.
The hammer.
See, I
French
can't
guy.
do something like that, cause I work for the
There's a
government.
French
That
guy
makes
down
no
there.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
Makes you what?
Charlemagne, yeah. But there's a guy named Martel, which means hammer.
No.
Don't forget all the Vikings.
One of these peeps.
Geronimo, really?
I've gotten a
I hadn't thought about
volunteer for
that.
somebody to
Well, I
take
got
our-
that from.
Our government van
From-
had a
I
tracker
got part
on
of
it.
that from the list from G.I. Joe
Not so much for
Huh.
getting stolen or
when
anything,
they were making the
but so much
Emperor.
for
How about
one
Pol
of our
Pot?
guys drove to
Hmm.
How about
Cannon
Pol
Air
Pot?
Force Base.
Never
He
heard
did
of them.
Pol
Cannon
Pot.
Air Force Base, and he did so
Khmer
at
Rouge.
91 miles per hour for a
Never heard of,
significant
never heard
amount
of
of
that
that time.
Killing
that
fields.
French guy either.
So
The
we
movie-
were
yeah, Thomas.
about to have some discipline there, but he left, right? Now he works
There's
out,
lots of bad guys in the world.
Oh
I
yeah,
think he's a courier or something with
but
people of Pantax.
they were
Um,
Well, I think they let
Joseph
some of
Stalin.
the GPS drivers and some of the guys
God led me
get
to
away
the
with a
old
lot of speed. Some of those
G.I.
guys
Joe, A
get
Real
carried
American
away with
Hero,
big vans.
when they were creating
Yeah.
their emperor, and that's where I got a lot of those
Did you
names
see
from.
the,
Was
what was
Joseph
it, was it
Stalin
an
on there?
Amazon driver?
He's more recent, early 1900s.
There's like an Amazon driver that got busted for stealing stuff off
Joseph
porch.
Stalin?
Amazon,
No, I didn't see that.
Joseph Stalin, yeah.
I didn't see
There was
that.
other stuff there, so he stole it.
I didn't see that.
And apparently he had been
Yeah.
doing that.
He should be.
It's
Oh, I mean, he'd drop off his stuff and steal
Napoleon.
the other stuff?
Julius Caesar.
All right.
I don't know who this guy is. This third one.
They're
Ivan
all
the
kinds of
Terrible.
Oh, I like the ones that
Alexander
the videos
Great,
that they
Genghis
have where the
Khan,
guy pulls
King
up
Solomon,
and gets off of the
Xerxes.
truck
Genghis
and takes the
Khan.
box and just
Oh,
throws
yeah.
it at the door and
Yeah,
then gets
I
back
had
in.
Joseph Stalin and
They showed
I
William
saw,
the
I saw a
Conqueror.
meme, I
there's
saw
the
a
reds on
meme.
there. That's
Yeah.
No,
It said, you remember
The
that guy that
Viking
caught you
Lorich.
knocking on his door and running and said you're never gonna
The
amount to
Viking
anything?
Lorich,
Doing that, well, now we,
Rasputin, Hannibal.
there's jobs for that now, that it shows a
Yeah.
UPS truck.
Uh,
How about Anton
one day
LaVey?
throw a
Val-
TV over a big thing.
Vlad Tepes, Vlad the Impaler, also known as Dracula.
And how about
But they're-
Anton LaVey?
He's not on here.
I
either.
had
He should be.
I had an AR upper,
And Crowley.
delivered to the wrong house.
The King of Serpents.
It's gone.
Hmm.
Somebody's got them a 10.5 inch upper.
Yeah, Aleister Crowley should be on there
Little sister
too. I
over
forgot
there,
about him.
they're
I got
down
I put
there.
Gilgamesh
They'll
on
go
there.
to college there,
Yeah.
and some of those homes will Tyler, Gilmore.
For sure.
They have transits coming down through there. And they steal stuff off their porch and just keep on walking.
Yeah,
Did
Aleister
you-
Crowley
Did I
himself.
tell y'all about the UPS driver came, I live on a cul-de-sac, and they came around the cul-de-sac to
We're
my
gonna be out
neighbor,
of town Monday,
and they have these
so we'll be-
brick mailboxes, you know, of brick, and so he's pulling
Just a
by.
mailbox baseball?
Yeah, well, his big mirrors on the side of his truck just knocked the top layer of bricks off of the mailbox because he gets over too close, and so he goes and delivers the stuff, gets in his van and his deal, and just drives off. But my camera that I have on my front yard, you know, I've got the deal, and my neighbor comes over and tells me, I said, let's look at my camera, you know, found the deal, and so they call UPS, show him the deal, and call the driver up, and he said, I didn't realize it did any damage. He said, I heard it.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you see these bricks laying out there. You didn't hear that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, his door's open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't even fire the guy. They just
Well, they
took his
didn't,
money.
they didn't use much for, what they used for the bricks, what they used for mortar, I mean,
Well, I
I'm
mean,
trying to
it,
figure out, those bricks are not put on very good, but it's mirror took them off.
Yeah.
well,
That's weird.
it's those mirrors are out there. I don't know that it didn't do any damage to the truck.
Well, it had to.
You would think it'd break the little
Those are real
plastic housing
thin
around there.
housings that those mirrors in there. They may be big, but they're not real strong.
And so
Well,
they look like
UPS
metal, but
paid.
they're not.
There's two of them together there, you know, for between the townhouses, and they paid $500 on each one to have them replaced.
Golly,
So
that's a bit over the top.
Charlemagne Francisco Pejadro or something. That's the French
Oh,
guy who
Lord.
was trying to.
Good,
Well,
You?
Charlemagne is
I'm
French
good,
too, though.
good.
Oh, was he?
I saw Charlemagne, so
We're here.
Yeah, the
We're
guy
here.
right under
We're good.
Charlemagne.
We're here.
I'm not a history buff, but Daryl would probably know all those persons.
So what's next week, Doreen?
Devarine,
Hello.
That's what I did last night,
John better get in here.
how come you did it last night?
cause the schedule I came across has Davey and Devereen.
And you said everything in the beginning with me.
Said the words,
The words.
That's me.
Yeah,
word.
yeah. Well, it depends. If we would have done,
I don't know.
if we would have done,
His word.
Sukkot, when I wanted to, we would be on Devarine.
Well,
It
we,
just all depends on when you do Sukkot.
well,
I like your shirt.
we were talking
Hard
like
for
maybe,
people to read the weird fonts, but
maybe
I
we need to
collect fonts. I love
scooch
fonts
30 minutes when
on
we're
my
together.
computer, so when I printed the shirt up, I wanted
Yeah.
Like I wonder if they would do the
No.
service 30 minutes later.
pseudo-Arabic. It's
Yeah,
called pseudo-signing.
Alvin and I
That's the
talked
name of
about
it,
it. He said that if we
Pseudo-signing.
wanted to, he would move it to
Then you
30
got God
minutes
talking, and you
later.
got the soup, well, the Hebrew is called Jerusalem.
But we thought we'd try this for,
Cool.
for
I mean,
A
there,
week or two.
a week or
a lot
two.
of them are real Hebrew letters, but
Yeah.
they're
I
used
can't.
to because they
I
live
can't
by.
read all that.
Did I not
stuff,
get
but-
back?
Well,
I like from what I've been reading in the English. I like
Or
it.
did you just not get up?
it says, if those ordinances he depart from before me.
Left this morning.
Oh yeah, he told me he was doing that.
Says the Lord,
How far forward do you have these
the
made up?
seed of Israel,
How far
Awesome.
forward?
cease
I don't. I just make them
from
up.
you
You'll
and
remember what
nation
you're doing.
before me forever.
Yeah, sure. And say if you
the
had
sun and the
them
moon
out
go
a
away,
little
then
ways, you
Israel
could
will
just,
go away.
we already have them.
Oh, I could website
Does it feel all right?
copy the from and to
Yeah.
where it starts and ends, and then put it in Bible Gateway, and it pulls it up.
I probably would be better.
And I copy it into my document, and then I open up the complete Jewish Bible and get all the sections
Yeah.
and go in and just add them in. It takes maybe
I've got
15, 20
three that
minutes to do one.
I still-
But I've got a lot of them
That-
done.
The sheriff's.
I just go back and fix the
Had one
dates and
card.
stuff.
That felt like he was talking about every now and
And I
then.
bought one, and they both broke.
He did
down.
one this past
I got
week that I
three
don't
left.
really like much.
Oh, it's time. Is John gonna come over?
I wanted
He's
to watch
up
that.
behind us.
I said, I wanted to watch that.
Anyways, he had two little things on the
Well,
Shroud of
I'll
Turin.
holler at you
Uh-huh.
when we.
There's some very interesting things that they
I'll
found
let you share
about that.
one
They
of
found
them.
some coins that are no earlier than 29 AD.
I know.
Huh.
Well, they've
And
found
they found his Teflon,
Teflon on his. They've got
the crown,
they've got one of the
Really?
nails,
spikes.
one of the spikes in
They've
his
got more.
leg.
They've got more than one of his.
Yeah.
And they were through his feet, not through his ankles, but the ones were through his wrist.
Yeah, I had to have been, it wouldn't have held him if it wasn't through his wrist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And then they also like they were saying that that it was moving. So whenever that happened, he was probably breathing, had a belt on, and then we do not have the technology today to make that.
To make the image, yeah.
To make a 3D image, because if we tried any kind of ink on linen, it would bleed in, and this didn't bleed in.
Right, it's on the surface.
And the closest you could get to having that happen is laser light, but we don't have anything that could do it.
Right.
Yep, God can do it.
Yeah. Well, it's past time to start. I guess we can go ahead and start.
Well, John,
yeah.
Are we on,
Is John?
are we on,
No, he said he was gonna come turn it on. But he's not here. So,
He's not
See,
here.
moving this back to 8
He's not
o'clock,
here.
that's already a bad start. What movie was that? It's a bad start, boys. Bad start.
it sounds like George Clooney, but I don't know.
Nah, it's,
Okay.
Well, let's go ahead and begin. Doesn't matter if he turns it on or not. People can watch it later.
people can get up and show up next time.
That's right.
Did I say, I'm sorry, Dick. Yeah. It was up here.
Okay. Well, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
I got this is a double portion, so there's a lot in it. So we probably won't get through.
Talk much.
Hmm?
Probably won't get to talk much. We'll probably just have to read.
Read some? Yeah. That's probably what I do. Okay, well, let's begin with the blessing. Join me. Blessed art thou, Lord our God, King of the universe, who sanctifies us with thy commandments, and commanded us to engross ourselves in the words of the Torah. And in Hebrew, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav, b'tzivanu la'asok le'divrei Torah.
I got all kinds of tongue tied there.
Yeah. I have the Proverbs 15:8-10. Yahweh detests the sacrifices of the wicked, but delights in the prayers of the upright. Yahweh detests the way of the wicked, but loves anyone who pursues righteousness. Discipline is severe for one who leaves the way, but whoever can't stand correction will die. So, what is the pursuit of righteousness?
Following his word.
Keeping God's commandments. I mean, Deuteronomy.
Trying to act like the one who was righteous.
That's right. Deuteronomy 6:25 states, if we're diligent to keep these commandments that He's given, it will be righteousness unto us. So if we keep His commandments, we're pursuing righteousness.
We should probably heed that.
We should heed that. Yeah.
If you love me, keep my commands.
Mhm.
Follow me, quote unquote.
Okay. Did it come up here? It's a
Can't be His disciple if you don't bear your own.
cross. Yeah.
And he didn't
Y'all
say
see my
all
two-
this.
Luke 6:40. Or Luke 14:23.
Yeah.
Why does my took have an ayin and a yud at the end?
Well, that is Star Weems.
Matotai?
No, that's Star Weems. If you go into modern Hebrew, that's the way they spell it.
Oh,
But in ancient Hebrew, it just ends with a tav
sounds Chinese when you say it that way though.
or a.
Matotai.
Uh-huh. But matot, you know what matot means? It's the
Tribes.
tribes, but it's
We're all-
it's the plural of the word for staff. So it's actually staffs. Your staff.
We're awful tribal today.
We're awful tribal. Yeah, we are.
All those sticks piled together.
That's
Yeah.
why critical race theory is all about tribalism.
It's about what?
Tribalism.
Tribalism. Yeah.
Some people call staff
It is.
faggots. So,
Okay, so we're doing matot and
Oh, Canadian
must
call
say.
a cigarette a faggot.
okay. Y'all through?
Mhm.
I hope so.
Okay, let's begin with number 1. It's kind of long. I think all of them are long.
And Sharon's not here.
Probably.
Sharon's not here.
Mm-mm.
Okay, Moses spoke to the heads of the tribes of the people of Israel, saying, This is what the Lord has commanded. If a man vows a vow to the Lord, or swears an oath to bind himself by a pledge, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all what proceeds out of his mouth. If a woman vows a vow to the Lord, and binds herself by a pledge, while within her father's house in her youth, and her father hears of her vow and of her pledge by what she has bound herself, and says nothing to her, then all her vows shall stand, and every pledge by which she has bound herself shall stand. But if her father opposes her on the day that he hears of it, no vow of hers, no pledge by which she has bound herself shall stand, and the Lord will forgive her, because her father opposed her. If she marries a husband while under her vows, or any thoughtless utterance of her lips by which she has bound herself, and her husband hears of it and says nothing to her on the day that he hears, then her vows shall stand, and her pledges by which she has bound herself shall stand. But if on the day that her husband comes to hear of it, he opposes her, then he makes void her vow that was on her, and the thoughtless utterance of her lips by which she bound herself, and the Lord will forgive her. But any vow of a widow or of a divorced woman, anything by which she has bound herself, shall stand against her. And if she vowed in her husband's house, or bound herself by a pledge with an oath, and her husband heard of it, and said nothing to her, and did not oppose her, then all of her vows shall stand, and every pledge by which she bound herself shall stand. But if her husband makes them null and void on the day that he hears them, then whatever proceeds out of her lips concerning her vows, concerning her pledge of herself, shall not stand. Her husband has made them void, and the Lord will forgive her. Any vow and any binding oath to afflict herself, her husband may establish, or her husband may make void. But if her husband says nothing to her from day to day, then he establishes all her vows, or all her pledges that are upon her. He has established them because he said nothing to her on the day that he heard of them. But if he makes them null and void after he has heard of them, then he shall bear her iniquity. These are the statutes that the Lord commanded Moses about a man and his wife, and about a father and his daughter, while she is in her youth within her father's house. The Lord spoke to Moshe, saying, Avenge the people of Israel on the Midianites. Afterward you shall be gathered to your people. So Moses spoke to the people, saying, Arm men from among you for war. that they may go against Midian to execute the Lord's vengeance on Midian. You shall send 1,000 from each of the tribes of Israel to the war. So there were provided out of the thousands of Israel 1,000 from each tribe, 12,000 armed for war. And Moses sent them to the war, 1,000 from each tribe, together with Pinchas, the son of Eleazar the priest, with the vessels of the sanctuary and the trumpets for the alarm in his hand. They warred against Midian as the Lord commanded Moses, and killed every male. They killed the kings of Midian with the rest of their slain, Evi, Rechem, Zur, Hur, and Reba, the 5 kings of Midian. And they also killed Balaam, the son of Beor, with the sword. And the people of Israel took captive the women of Midian and their little ones. And they took as plunder all the cattle, their flocks, and all the goods, all their cities and the places they lived, and all their encampments they burned with fire, and took all of the spoil and all the plunder, both of man and of beast. Then they brought the captives and the plunder and the spoil to Moses and to Eleazar the priest and to the congregation of the people of Israel at the camp on the plains of Moab, the Jordan at Jericho. So, whom did Moses give the to whom did Moses give the laws of vows? To whom did Moses give the laws of vows?
Eliezer?
He gave it the laws to the leaders of the tribes. According to the Mishnah, I don't know what the Mishnah is. This was the procedure with all the laws Moses taught. First, he would teach them to Aaron and the heads of the tribes, and then he would instruct the people. Let's see here. But Moses, in Exodus 34, Moses called to them, and Aaron and all the leaders of the congregation returned to him, and Moses talked with them. Afterward, all the people of Israel came near, and he commanded them all that the Lord had spoken with him in Mount Sinai. All the people of Israel came near, and he commanded them all that the Lord had spoken. Okay. When did it start?
On the timer.
It must have.
He must have used a timer. He said he wasn't going to. Okay, if someone makes a vow, what's required of him or her?
To fulfill it.
Yeah, he's supposed to do everything that comes from your lips. Have any of y'all ever made a vow that you didn't keep? Yeah, I had one I made one time that I didn't keep. But I don't know that it was serious or not.
Probably was.
Probably was. Probably more serious than I thought.
One of those deals, if you don't do this, I'll box your ears.
Yeah. No, I'll just tell you about it. We were in a meeting at the church I used to attend. I won't mention any names, protect the innocent. And we were having a council meeting, and I was on this council. I was in this group of men. There was a few women on the council, but mostly men. And the preacher wanted to go somewhere, and they were discussing, the cost of it. And this is a big church. They've got money. And they're talking about, well, should we spend this, and how important is it? And I just said, what difference does it make? If it costs $600, I said, I'll pay it. What are we talking about this for? I was just like, why? It's not a big deal. And
Because the mammon is important.
I know.
Yeah.
I know, but the way people were going on about
Yeah.
it, you would have thought someone was going to die.
Like there was going to be a bloodletting.
But anyway, the other people, spoke up, and they had the same opinion I did. Yeah, we will too. We'll just chip in, and I don't know if anybody did or not. I mean, we just took a vote, and it was okay, and it went on. But I didn't specifically go in and write a check for it,
Oh, okay.
But I have I have thought, well, I didn't fulfill my vow because I should have done
There's
that.
kind of stipulations to it. You made the vow, but nobody challenged you on it, and they just fulfilled it for you, so.
Yeah. Well, I
You
mean,
didn't really
I-
fulfill your
I don't
vow.
know. I'm just saying that that did happen, and it's been a point of guilt for me.
Uh-oh,
Something
lights
you
blinked.
feel guilty about, though.
So why is it important to keep your word?
It is.
Why?
For God's witnesses, we don't wanna be shaming him.
That's right.
We don't want to make
To
God
fail
look
to
like a
keep
liar.
your word, break a vow, is to desecrate God's name. Okay, the word translated break comes from the root kalal, which means to profane or make unholy. So when you make a vow, especially if you say, with God's help, you know, what do the Jewish people do when they make a vow? If they say something, they'll say something and they say, I'm not saying this
God
that God has anything to do with it. I'm not desecrating it. If I happen not to do this, it has nothing to do with God. That's what they'll say. Because they understand that, you know, if they do something, if they say something in relationship to other people, that we all rely on God to fulfill our lives. And they're saying, if I don't do this, it has nothing to do with God. I'm not making a vow. Even though I said I'm making a vow, I'm not making a vow.
Sounds political.
I should do that, not I will do that.
Yeah, I should. Can an unmarried woman make a vow while living in her father's house?
Yes.
Certainly. Can a married woman make a vow?
Yes.
Certainly. So, but divorced women and single women that aren't living with their father or their husband, they have to keep all their vows, right?
Mhm.
But the other women, their fathers or their husbands, can disavow the vow. So why is that important? Does it mean that we live in a patriarchal society?
I don't know.
Keeps your husband on their toes.
Well, look at it this way. A family has to have a leader, you know, someone in charge that takes responsibility. And what happens within the family, someone that makes a vow within your family, it's important. And what they say and what they're going to do can affect the whole family. And so the person that's in charge, which is usually the father, the husband, the head of the house, someone has to be in charge. And if he says, you know, you don't understand everything that goes on outside the family. I'm working, I'm doing these things. You can't do that. I say no. You can't fulfill that. You're not going to be able to do that because what you've said is not going to stand. And so he has to take responsibility for it. And that's the same way in a marriage. But if a woman is single and she's living out, she's responsible just like because she's the head of her own house.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why she's responsible for her vows. But if you live in a family, then the person in charge has to do that.
Mm.
You know, and it's like, so well, if he goes on and lets it go, then that means that he concurred that it was okay. And if she doesn't keep it, then her vow's on her, because you said she's able to do it. But if he says afterwards and sees that she can, he says, okay, I take responsibility because I should have said something earlier. And God says, you have to understand that.
I'm sure there are nuances to that too, probably in a household where there's a wife who's working, taking care of a disabled husband, or one who has dementia or something like that would be considered probably the head of the household in that case or
Right.
something.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean,
within reason.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in our society, it's different. You know, people used to get sick and die.
Yeah, instead of get sick and stay in the hospital.
Yeah. But now we have the technology to make them linger on for a long time.
The ring you driving your money.
Well, I mean, it's experience my father. He died when he was 62, but he had dementia. And it started when he was in his 50s, and by the time he died, he couldn't talk, he couldn't walk. He was physically able. I mean, physically he was in good shape. But he had a seizure, and we put him in the hospital for a couple of days, and he forgot how to walk. I mean, if he didn't do something every day, he forgot. But I mean, he couldn't communicate. I mean, he just mumbled. And so we put him in the Veterans Hospital, and they moved him over. After a few days, they moved him to the Veterans Nursing Home, and they were feeding him with a tube. And it had a little black ring on the tube, so that when it got right here, you knew it was in his stomach. And when they came in to feed him, the tube was out about a foot, and they drowned him because it went into his lungs. He aspirated it.
Oh, no.
But the thing is, it wasn't malicious, it was incompetence. You know what I mean? But I mean,
No incompetence is a VA, man.
no, it wasn't the VA, it was some guy
No,
that
I
worked
know.
at the VA, and he made a mistake. The thing about it is, his dad didn't have any quality of life. He didn't know who he was or who anybody else was.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that God could not have healed him, that there could have been some. But the outlook was very bleak,
Yeah.
put it that way.
I'm sorry.
So provide some examples of vows in the Bible. You know some vows in the Bible?
Like the guy that vowed that he would sacrifice whatever came
Came
to
out of
his
his
door
house.
first, you know?
You fought?
Yeah.
Jephthah? Judges 11:30?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's one.
It's a bad one.
What about Jacob's vow? What's Jacob's vow? When he left his father's house, he said, if God will be faithful to me, will keep me in this way, that I go and give me bread and give me clothes, so that I come again to my father's house in peace, then he shall be my God.
God already told him he would before he even made that.
I know, before he made the vow.
It's crazy.
So, in Numbers 21, 1 through 3, what's Israel's vow? When the Canaanites, the king of Arad, who lived in the Negev, heard that Israel was coming by the way of Atarim, he fought against Israel and took some of them captive. And Israel vowed a vow to the Lord and said, if you will indeed give this people into my hand, then I will devote their cities to destruction. And the Lord heeded the voice of Israel and gave over the Canaanites, and they devoted them and their cities to destruction. So the name of the place was called Hormah. What's Hormah mean?
No clue.
Destruction. They dedicated it to destruction. Okay. What about the Nazarite vow? Speak to the people of Israel and say to them, when they're either a man or a woman makes a special vow, the vow of a Nazarite, to separate himself to the Lord. So, what kind of a special vow is that? Now, Paul took a Nazarite vow, didn't he? Y'all remember?
I believe he did.
He did. Why did he?
Here at Caesarea,
Why did he take the vow?
because he wanted to.
Well, he
Well,
wanted
he
to.
did, and then they took the other men,
Well, he
4 men with
wanted
the
to.
vow to demonstrate that he himself walked orderly according to the law.
Right. It was a vow of obedience. He said, if anybody thinks I don't believe God's word, why would I do this? Where I cut my hair and my eyebrows and do all this stuff to separate myself. I mean, he was just saying, I uphold the law. Okay, there's one other.
And
There's
he
two others
spoke
that.
against how he walked, and that was problematic.
Yeah. There's two others I like. What's Hannah's vow?
But she
That
would
if
give
God
over
would-
Samuel.
Dedicate her son to the Lord.
Yeah, yeah. Her vow. It's like you said. Her vow produced Samuel.
Samuel would have been, he was a Nazarite.
He was a Nazarite from birth. She said he will be a Nazarite from birth. And then there's one of the Psalms of Ascent. Do y'all know which one is the vow? King David, it's Psalm 132. Remember, O Lord, in David's favor all the hardships he endured, Actually, the King James is better. It says, remember in David's favor, what's it called? It doesn't matter. He says, he swore to the Lord and vowed to the mighty one of Jacob, I will not enter my house or get into my bed. I will not give sleep to my eyes or slumber to my eyelids until I find a place for Yahweh, a dwelling place for the mighty one of Jacob. Now, what was he vowing in that song?
Go find a place to put the house of the Lord.
That's right. He said, I'm going to make sure this gets done. He wanted to build it, but he didn't get to build it. He said, your son will build it. But he made the vow. And so what did he do?
He made sure that everything was ready for Samuel to build it.
That's right. He acquired all of the material that was used in the building of the tabernacle.
And the threshing floor.
What psalm was that?
132.
132.
Too much blood on his hands.
Okay. Are all vows necessarily bad? Marriage vows, are they bad?
No.
What about vows to keep faith in the Lord and His promises?
No.
Good.
Yeah. So it doesn't mean that we shouldn't make vows. But what does Jesus say about vows?
Let your yes be yes and your no be no.
Yes, and again you have heard it said that those of old, you shall not swear falsely, but you shall perform to the Lord what you have sworn. But I say to you, do not take an oath at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by earth, for it is for His footstool, and by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great King. And do not take an oath by your head, for you cannot make one hair white or black. Let what you say be simply yes or no. Anything more than this comes from evil.
Like I promise, or
Yeah. And what did James say? Not brother James and not friend James.
Yeah, same night.
James. He said, but of all my brothers do not swear, either by heaven or by earth, or by any other oath. Let your yes be yes and your no be no, that you may not fall under condemnation. Those are strong words. You know, it just says, be careful what comes out of your mouth. Okay, why did God command Israel to take vengeance on Midian?
Various reasons.
No, y'all know what it was. What just happened?
Balaam and Balak, and it
Balaam and Balak.
would let him pass through the land.
Balaam brought Midianite women to the edge of the camp to entice and seduce the men into disobedience. Whoever stands against Israel stands against God. Who said that? Y'all know?
Joshua?
No. Rashi, one of the Jewish sages. Whoever stands against Israel stands against God. Do y'all think that's true?
Oh yeah.
I think so.
I think so too.
I think David Ben Gurion should have said
I mean,
Mhm.
the 6-day war proves that.
Mhm. What did God say would happen to Moses after the war with the Midianites?
He would go to be with his fathers.
Yes, he would die. So why didn't God command vengeance against Moab? I mean, it was the king of Moab that went to the Midianites, and Balaam came down and cursed them and all that kind of stuff. So why didn't he command vengeance?
Are they the ones that-
Because of Ruth.
Because of Ruth, yeah. Okay, let's see. There's one other question. I've got a whole bunch here, but I'm just going to go with this one I wanted to get to. So why did Moses send Pinchas instead of Joshua in the battle?
Because Pinchas had the fire.
Well,
He's a zealot.
Yeah,
no, he was the one that began. He went in and killed.
the woman and
Zealous for the Lord.
Yeah, he was zealous. So he started it, And Moses said, "You're the one that needs to finish it."
Mhm.
And so, what did he take with him
Oh, the
besides
trumpet.
the men?
Trumpet.
He took the vessels of the sanctuary, the Ark of the Covenant, and the silver trumpets. Yeah, there's another question I was going to ask, but I'll ask it later. Number 2. Number 2. Goodness sakes, it's long.
Mm-hmm.
Moses and Eleazar the priest and all the chiefs of the congregation went to meet them outside the camp. And Moses was angered with the officers of the army, the commanders of thousands and the commanders of hundreds, who had come from the service in war. Moses said to them, "Have you let all the women live? Behold, these, on Balaam's advice, caused the people of Israel to act treacherously against the Lord in the incident of Peor. And so the plague came among the congregation of the Lord. Now therefore kill every male among the little ones, and kill every woman who has known man by lying with them. But all the young girls who have not known man by lying with them, keep alive for yourselves, and camp outside the camp 7 days. Whoever of you has killed any person, and whoever has touched any slain, purify yourselves and purify yourselves and your captives." I'm sorry, I can't see where I was.
On the third day.
On the third day. And on the
See where
seventh.
21 is? Just go up about 2 little lines.
Purify yourselves and your captives on the 3rd day and on the 7th day. You shall purify every garment, every article of skin, all work of goat's hair, and every article of wood. Then Eleazar the priest said to the men in the army who had gone to battle, "This is the statute of the law that the Lord has commanded Moses. Only the gold, the silver, the bronze, the iron, the tin, and the lead, everything that can stand the fire, you shall pass through the fire, and it shall be clean. Nevertheless, it also shall be purified with water for impurity. And whatever cannot stand the fire, you shall pass through the water. You must wash your clothes on the 7th day, and you shall be clean. And afterward you may come into the camp." The Lord said to Moses, "Take the count of the plunder that was taken, both man and of beast, and Eleazar the priest, and the heads of the fathers' houses of the congregation, and divide the plunder into 2 parts between the warriors who went out into battle and all the congregation. And levy for the Lord a tribute from the men of war who went out to battle, 1 out of 500 of the people, and of the oxen, and of the donkeys, and of the flocks. Take it from their half, and give it to Eleazar the priest as a contribution to the Lord. And from the people of Israel's half you shall take 1 drawn out of every 50 of the people, of the oxen, of the donkeys, and of the flocks, of all the cattle, and give them to the Levites who keep guard over the tabernacle of the Lord." And Moshe and Eleazar the priest did as the Lord commanded Moshe. Now the plunder remaining of the spoil that the army took was 675,000 sheep, 72,000 cattle, 61,000 donkeys, and 32,000 persons, in all, women who had not known man by lying with them. And the portion of those who had gone out in the army numbered 337,500 sheep. And the Lord's tribute of sheep was 675. The cattle was 36,000, of which the Lord's tribute was 72. The donkeys were 30,500, of which the Lord's tribute was 61. The persons were 16,000, of which the Lord's tribute was 32. And Moshe gave the tribute, which was contribution for the Lord, to Eleazar the priest, and the Lord as the Lord had commanded Moses. The people of Israel's half, which Moses separated from that of the men who had served in the army. Now the congregation's half was 337,500 sheep, 36,000 cattle, and 30,500 donkeys, and 16,000 persons. From the people of Israel's half, Moses took 1 of every 50, both of persons and of beasts, and gave them to the Levites, who kept guard over the tabernacle of the Lord, as the Lord commanded Moses. Then the officers who were over the thousands of the army, and the commanders of thousands, and the commanders of hundreds, came near Moses and said to Moses, "Your servants have counted the men of war who are under our command, and there is not a man missing from us. And we have brought the Lord's offering, what each man found, articles of gold, amulets, bracelets, signet rings, earrings, and beads, to make atonement for ourselves before the Lord." And Moses and Eleazar the priest received from them the gold, all crafted articles. And all the gold of the contribution they presented to the Lord from the commanders of the thousands, commanders of hundreds, was 16,750 shekels. The men in the army had each taken plunder for himself. And Moses and Eleazar the priest received the gold from the commanders of thousands and of hundreds, and brought it into the tent of meeting, as a memorial for the people of Israel before the Lord. Okay. So we had 12,000 men that went to battle, right? And Pincus led the army, right?
Yes.
Did Moses fight in the battle?
No.
He didn't?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Why did Moses send Pincus instead of Joshua? We already discussed that. Why was what weapons did Pincus take with him? We already discussed that. Why was Balaam present during the war?
He was trying to entice Israel with
No. Why was he present during the war? We thought he had gone home, right?
Yes, that's what we thought.
Hmm?
That's what we thought.
Well, he was there to collect his reward for cursing Israel.
Okay, that's what another thing I was thinking.
Yeah.
He should have left.
Yeah, he should have left. What about all the men? Why did they bring all the gold and all the articles and all that kind of stuff as a contribution?
Because it was told them.
No, because 12,000 went, and how many came back?
12,000.
Okay, nobody died.
No.
Nobody died. Now, what did the sages say in the Mishnah Talmud? What do they say?
No idea.
That even if they were killed, God resurrected them.
They're not Sadducees, are they?
Well,
Not if they don't believe in
no matter what you say, when 12,000 men go against a country that had all the sheep and cattle and things, and they bring back 32,000 women have never known a man. You know, they killed all the other women. How many men did they fight? I mean, it had to be 10 to 1 or 200 to 1, and they wiped them out.
Yeah.
So there was, however you look at it, it was miraculous.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do it on their own power, put it that way. Okay, moving right along.
Reminds me of Shamgar
Shimgar?
from Judges.
Okay, number 3. This is pretty short. You want to read that, Deborah?
Short.
It's just a page long.
Okay. Now the people of Reuben and the people of Gad had a very great number of livestock, and they saw the land of Jazer and the land of Gilead, and behold, the place was a place for livestock. So the people of Gad and the people of Reuben came and said to Moses and Eleazar the priest, and the chiefs of the congregation, Ataroth, Dibon, Jazer, Nimrah, Heshbon, Eliab, Saban, Nebo, and Beon, the land that the Lord struck down before the congregation of Israel is a land for livestock, and your servants have livestock. And they said, if we have found favor in your sight, let this land be given to your servants for a possession. Do not take us across the Jordan. But Moses and the people of Gad and the people of Reuben, shall your brothers go to war while you sit here? Will you discourage the heart of the people of Israel from going over into the land that the Lord has given them? Your fathers did this when I sent them from Kadesh Barnea to see the land. For when they went up to the valley of Eshcol and saw the land, they discouraged the heart of the people of Israel from going into the land that the Lord had given them. And the Lord's anger was kindled on that day, and he swore, saying, surely none of the men who came up from out of Egypt from 20 years old and upward shall see the land that I swore to give to Abraham, to Isaac, and Jacob, because they have not wholly followed me. None except Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, and Joshua the son of Nun, for they have wholly followed the Lord. And the Lord's anger was kindled against Israel, and made them wander in the wilderness 40 years, until the generation had done evil in the sight of the Lord was gone. And behold, you have risen in your father's place, a brood of sinful men, to increase still more the fierce anger of the Lord against Israel. For if you turn away from following him, he will again abandon them in the wilderness, and you will destroy all this people. Then they came near to him and said, We will build sheepfolds here for our livestock, and cities for our little ones, but we will take up arms, ready to go before the people of Israel, until we have brought them to their place. And our little ones shall live in the fortified cities because of the inhabitants of the land. We will not return to our homes until each of the people of Israel has gained his inheritance. For we will not inherit from them on the other side of the Jordan and beyond, because our inheritance has come to us on this side of the Jordan to the east. So Moses said to them, If you will do this, if you will take up arms to go before the Lord for this war, and every armed man of you will pass over the Jordan before the Lord, until he has driven out his enemies from before him, and the land is subdued before the Lord. Then after that you shall return, and be free of obligation to the Lord and to Israel. And this land shall be your possession before the Lord. But if you will not do so, behold, you have sinned against the Lord, and be sure your sin will find you out. Build cities for your little ones, and your folds for your sheep, and do what you have promised. And the people of Gad and the people of Reuben said to Moses, Your servants will do as my Lord commands. Our little ones, our wives, our livestock, and our cattle shall remain there in the cities of Gilead, but your servants will pass over, every man who is armed for war, before the Lord to battle, as my Lord orders. So Moses gave command concerning them to Eleazar the priest, and to Joshua the son of Nun, and the heads of the fathers' houses of the tribes of the people of Israel.
So, what tribes asked to stay?
Gad.
Reuben and Gad.
And the half tribe of Manasseh,
Mhm.
right? So, what was Moses' initial response?
No.
No.
Are you kidding?
Not just no.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, are you kidding? Why was he upset?
Because of what happened before.
Well, he thought that they were just going to stay. But they said, no, we're not going to stay. We're going to go and fulfill our obligation. Now, what gets me about the whole deal is that they said, we're going to build sheepfolds and get everything organized, build pens, get our houses set up and all that before we go. So, what did that say about the society?
They weren't in a big hurry. I don't know what it says about society.
No, the ability of the people.
Oh,
Like, if you took all of Amarillo, a couple 100,000 people, and you started going out across the country and you found some places and you said, okay, we found this, we're going to get together and set up everything we need to, our sheepfolds and all that kind of stuff, what would happen?
We can go anywhere.
Nothing.
right, nothing.
Okay,
Very little.
what it means is people in that day, I think up until the last 70 years or so, were self-sufficient. If something happened, I mean, you know, men back in my father's generation, they knew how to live. I mean, they knew how to make things and do things and get by with what we would consider today as nothing. You know, I mean, I'm sure Doyle.
You mean without a cell phone?
Cell phone, yeah, exactly.
Where did you grow up, Doyle?
La Mesa's where I started, and then Dimmitt,
Yeah.
Dimmitt's where we finished.
Savages.
Yeah, but I mean, but families back in the day, I mean, they raised their own food. They knew how to keep things prepared so it would last. You know,
They built their own houses. They
built their own. I mean,
cattle.
a lot of times they didn't build their own houses, but all their neighbors and stuff usually got together and helped everybody do things. You know, I mean, my father, when he was a kid, told a story about there was a family named the Smarts that lived, and their house burned down. And so my grandfather just went over and said, well, until y'all get your house built, y'all can live with us.
Wow.
And my dad said, we had, I don't think all the children were born, but there was like 4 kids already born in the family, and the Smarts had 5, and their house was like 5 rooms. And they all lived in there, you know. And I asked my dad, I said, how did y'all do it? And he said, well, we just made places for everybody to sleep, and everybody slept. I
People
said,
sleep
well,
on
I wouldn't
the
have
floor.
slept. I mean, probably stunk in there, didn't it? He said, well, it didn't smell real good. But anyway, people were different.
Yeah.
You know. And I said, well, how long they live with us? He says, well, 5 years. I said, 5 years? I said, why? And he says, well, they were living and there wasn't much time for getting everything. He said, but the coup de grace is that Grandpa, his pasture was next to one of the Smarts' wheat fields, and after wheat harvest, he wanted to go out with a hay rake and rake up the straw and take it in for his cattle. And Mr. Smart wouldn't let him do it, so he said, well, then you got to move out of my house. He said, I guess they would have just stayed there forever. But anyway, interesting story. Okay, who were the lost tribes of Israel? Who were the lost tribes of Israel?
Dan?
The northern kingdom,
The
right?
Northern Kingdom.
The northern kingdom. Who were the first ones to go? The tribes east of the Jordan.
Okay.
Gad, Reuben, and
Yeah. Those tribes were first, and they went early. The rest of them, the northern kingdom, went in 722, but the other tribes went in 740. So they were first by 18 years. So what is the picture of those tribes that are across the Jordan? They weren't really in the promised land, were they?
No.
They were kind of keeping the law outside the land. They were making the kingdom as best they could. Right?
Mm-hmm.
What does that say about you? think the United States is like a country outside the land doing the best we can?
Not even doing the best we can.
Yeah.
Well, I know that, but there are people in our country that are good people that read the scripture and try to apply it in their life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they may not do it like we do, but they're in their minds they're trying. Would you say that, Rob?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe they don't do it perfect. Maybe we don't.
Or in their minds they're not trying because they believe if trying is
Right.
sinful.
They believe that trying to keep God's word is futile.
Sinful.
Yeah, sometimes they think it's sinful.
Rejecting grace.
Presuming on grace.
Okay.
For a while.
Their time of life.
I'm gonna go on to the next because all this other stuff is not necessary.
I'll read.
You want to read?
Yeah.
Read number 4.
For a while.
Y'all might have to flag me down.
It's okay.
Moses said to them, if the people of Gad and the people of Reuben, every man who is armed to battle before the Lord, will pass with you over the Jordan and shall be subdued before you, then you shall give them the land of Gilead for a possession. However, if they will not pass over with you armed, they shall have possessions among you in the land of Canaan. And the people of Gad and the people of Reuben answered, what the Lord has said your servants we will do. We will pass over armed before the Lord into the land of Canaan, and a possession of our inheritance shall remain with us beyond the Jordan. And Moses gave to them, to the people of Gad and to the people of Reuben, and to the half tribe of Manasseh, the son of Joseph, the kingdom of Sihon, king of the Amorites, and the kingdom of Og, king of Bashan, the land and its cities with their territories, the cities, the land throughout the country. Excuse me. And the people of Gad built Dibon, Ataroth, Aror, Aroth-Shaphan, Jazer, Jabehah, Beth Nimrah, Beth Haran, fortified cities and folds for sheep. And the people of Reuben built Heshbon, Eliah, Kiriathim, Nebo, and Baal-meon, their names were changed, and Sibna, and they gave other names to the cities they built. And the sons of Machir, son of Manasseh, went to Gilead and captured it, and dispossessed the Amorites who were in it. And Moses gave Gilead to Machir, the son of Manasseh, and he settled in it. And Jair, the son of Manasseh, went and captured their villages and called them Havoth Jair. And Nabal went and captured Canessa, went and captured their villages and called them Havoth Jair. Oops. And Nabal went and captured Kenath and its villages and called it Nabal, after his own name. These are the stages of the people of Israel when they went out to the land of Egypt by their companies, under the leadership of Moses and Aaron. Moses wrote down their starting places, stage by stage, by command of the Lord, and these are their stages according to their starting places. They set out from Ramses in their first month, on the 15th day of the first month. On the day after the Passover, the people of Israel went out triumphantly in the sight of all Egyptians, while the Egyptians were burying all their firstborn, whom the Lord had struck down among them. On their gods also the Lord executed judgments. So the people of Israel set out from Ramses and camped at Succoth. And they set out from Succoth, camped at Etham, which is on the edge of the wilderness. And they set out from Etham and turned back to Pahirah, which is east of Baal-zephon, and they camped before Migdol. And they set out before Hahiroth and passed through the midst of the sea into the wilderness. And they went 3 days' journey in the wilderness of Etham and camped at Marah. And they set out from Marah and came to Elim. In Elim there were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees, and they camped there. And they set out from Elim and camped by the Red Sea. And they set out from the Red Sea and camped in the wilderness of Sin. And they set out from the wilderness of Sin and camped at Dophkah. And they set out from Dophkah and camped at Alush. And they set out from Alush and camped at Rephidim. And there was no water for people to drink. And they set out at Rephidim and camped at the wilderness of Sinai. And they set out from the wilderness of Sinai and camped at Kibroth Hattaavah. And they set out from Kibroth Hattaavah, camped at Hazeroth. And they set out from Hazeroth and camped at Rithmah. And they set out Rithmah and camped at Ramon Perez. And they set out from Ramon Perez and camped at Libnah. And they set out from Libnah and camped at Rissa. And they set out from Rissa and camped at Keilah. And they set out from Keilah and camped at Mount Shepher. And they set out from Mount Shepher and camped at Heradah. And they set out from Heradah and camped at Machpelah. And they set out from Machpelah and camped at Tahath. And they set out from Tahath and camped at Terah. And they set out from Terah and camped at Mithkah. And they set out from Mithkah and camped at Hashmonah. And they set out from Hashmonah and camped at Mosreth. And they set out from Mosreth and camped at Bene-Jacan. And they set out from Bene-Jacan and camped at Hor-Haggidgad. And they set out from Hor-Haggidgad and camped at Jothabathah. And they set out from Jothabathah and camped at Abronah. And they set out from Abronah and camped out at Ezion-Geber. And they set out from Ezion-Geber and camped in the wilderness of Zin, that is Kadesh. And they set out from Kadesh and camped at Mount Hor, and on the edge of land, edge of the land of Edom. And Aaron the priest went up Mount Hor at the command of the Lord and died there in the 14th year of the people of Israel, and came out of the land of Egypt, the first day of the 5th month. And Aaron was 123 years old when he died in Mount Hor. And the Canaanite king of Arad, who lived in the Negev, in the land of Canaan, heard the coming of the people of Israel. And he set out from Mount Hor and camped at Zalmanah. And he set out from Zalmanah and camped at Punon. And he set out from Punon and camped at Obah. And he set out from Obah and camped at Eliakim, and he in the territory of Moab. And he set out from Liam and camped at Gibeon-Gad. And he set out at Gibeon-Gad and camped at Almon-Dibletham. And he set out at Almon-Dibletham and camped at the mountains of Abarim before Nebo. And they set out from the mountains of Abarim and camped in the plains of Moab by the Jordan at Jericho. They camped by the Jordan from Beth Jeshimoth and as far as Abel Shittim in the plains of Moab.
Okay.
Yeah, wow.
Wow. How's your tongue? Okay, who said, be sure your sin will find you out? And to whom was it said?
Moses to the tribes that are going to stay on the east.
That's right. So there's a whole bunch of campsites. And what was all that he was talking about? All those campsites.
Wherever they went.
For the 40 years, that was a travel log of where they went. What was unusual about the third campsite called Migdol?
12 springs of water and 70 palm trees. Is that
That
it?
was,
No.
No. That's where God ordered them to turn back towards Egypt. And why did he order them to turn back towards Egypt?
Because it wasn't done dealing with Egypt.
Okay. Yeah, because he wanted to destroy the pursuing Egyptians. In other words, when he turned back, what did Pharaoh say? They're lost. They're
scared.
wandering in the wilderness. Let's go get them. What was he more or less saying? If they're lost, they're wandering in the desert. Okay, what was he intimating?
They're coming back.
They're a bunch of slaves. They don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
We'll go get them. There's no problem here. You know, I mean, you have to imply that because God has just destroyed his country. I mean, you took it the plague, you know, against all the gods of Egypt. But then he kills all the firstborn, and you know they're begging them to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a little while later, and he says he gets this report. Well, they're coming back towards Egypt. Yeah, okay, they're wandering in the desert. They don't know what they're doing. Let's go get them. I mean,
that's what he inferred from it.
how do you go from being whipped to being, hey, let's go get them? You know.
Somebody posted on YouTube. They're trying to come back.
Okay. Okay, what happened at the fourth campsite called Marah?
The water
The
was
water
bitter.
was
Better.
bitter. I
Uh-huh.
threw a stick in there to tell it to get butter.
Right. And remember what Diane Hammer said about it? Well, the water was bitter. In other words, they were going to receive the Torah. But in the tree, in the water, was Yeshua.
Cross made it sweet.
And the cross made the water sweet. Makes the Torah
The tree
sweet.
made the water sweet.
Yeah, the tree. Okay. So after 30 days, they reached Alush in the desert of Sin. What happened? What happened? Y'all remember? That's when the bread ran out and the people complained, and then what happened?
The quail.
Well,
Fire serpent.
the manna started. That's when the manna started. And what happened at Rephidim?
I bet they complained about something.
Yeah, they complained about
Every time you stop it.
the water to drink. And that's when the first time when Moses struck
Struck the rock.
the rock. There's only one other one. Okay, what is special about the mention of the Canaanite king Arad? Y'all don't know? I know you didn't know. Ancient Arad was located in the Negev and once was a prosperous Canaanite city. An Israelite temple dating from the time of Solomon was discovered at Arad in the northern Negev that was modeled after the tabernacle with a Holy of Holies. This temple was destroyed by Hezekiah when he was cleaning up the land. Why would he destroy that temple?
That's not where God put his name.
That's right.
It
He
was
doesn't like counterfeits.
pagan.
Didn't want that strange fire in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What's the significance of the 12 springs of water and the 70 palm trees or something to that?
Well, the
And I'm the 12 springs of water, 12 tribes, springs of water springing out.
70 nations.
70 nations.
70 nations.
That was
70 tribes. Okay, we gotta hurry right along. Oh, it's 9:30. I don't know that we got. Where
I
did we
think
leave
we're
off?
gonna make it.
Number 5.
Number 5.
Yes.
And the Lord spoke to Moses in the plains by the Jordan at Jericho, saying, Speak to the people of Israel and say to them, When you pass over the Jordan into the land of Canaan, then you shall drive out all the inhabitants of the land from before you, and destroy all their figured stones, and destroy all their metal images, and demolish all their high places. And you shall take possession of the land, settle in it, for I have given the land to you to possess it. You shall inherit the land by lot according to your clans. To a large tribe you shall give a large inheritance, and to a small tribe you shall give a small inheritance. Whatever the lot falls for anyone, that shall be his. According to the tribes of your fathers you shall inherit. But you do not drive out the inhabitants of the land before you. Then those of them whom you let remain in the land, as barbs in your eyes and thorns in your sides, they shall trouble you in the land where you dwell. And I will do to you as I thought to do to them. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Command the people of Israel and say to them, When you enter the land of Canaan, this is the land that shall fall to you for an inheritance, the land of Canaan as defined by the borders. Your south side shall be from the wilderness of Zin alongside Edom, and your southern border shall run from the end of the Salt Sea on the east, and your border shall turn south to the ascent of Akrabim and cross to Zin, and the limit shall be south to Kadesh Barnea. Then it shall go from Hatzar Adar and pass along to Asmon, and the border shall turn from Asmon to the brook of Egypt, and its limit shall be at the sea. For the western border you shall have the great sea and its coast. Then this shall be the western border. This shall be your northern border from the great sea. You shall draw a line to Mount Hor. From Mount Hor you shall draw a line to Lebo Hamath, and the limit of the border shall be at Zedad. Then the border shall extend to Zaphon, and its limit shall be Hazar Aram. This shall be your northern border. You shall draw a line for your eastern border from Hazar Aram to Shaphan, and the border shall go down from Shaphan to Rabbah on the east side of Ain, and the border shall go down and reach the shoulder of the Sea of Kinnereth on the east, and the border shall go down to Jordan, and the limit shall be at the Salt Sea. And this shall be the land defined by its borders all around. Moses commanded the people of Israel, saying, This is the land that you shall inherit by lot, which the Lord has commanded to give to the nine tribes and the half-tribe. For the tribe of the people of Reuben by fathers' houses, and the tribe of the people of Gad by their fathers' houses, have received their inheritance in the half-tribe of Manasseh. The 2 tribes of the half-tribe have received their inheritance beyond the Jordan, east of Jericho, toward the sunrise. Okay.
Want somebody to keep on going? Or?
No, I'm just going to finish up here. God told Moses to tell the Israelites to do 5 things when they came into the land. Did y'all see them in there? They were to drive out the inhabitants, destroy their figured stones, destroy their molten images, demolish their high places, and take possession of the land and settle within it. What else did he tell them?
Not to forsake the gathering together.
No. He told them to destroy all the people. And if they left any of them alive, in other words, he didn't say you had to chase them once they left the country, but you had to rid the country of them. And if they fought you, kill them all. Destroy them. All the people, all their children, all their cattle, everything they have, all their idols you demolish. Anything they have, you grind it to dust.
Abandon it.
That's right. So what was the purpose?
So they wouldn't.
Clean it up so they wouldn't want to do some of that dirty stuff themselves.
Right. The thing about it is
They'd already learned bad stuff from Balaam and his thieves.
yeah. What does it say about people?
Evil.
Yeah.
You take on other people's stuff. You see something they do and you think, that's kind of cool.
Mhm.
That's interesting. That's not what we do. That's kind of interesting. It must be something to it.
Well, it's
The
that.
Germans do this. Why don't we do that?
That's right. Well, it's like the deal in that I've talked about before. It's about like being friends. Me and Daryl want to be friends. So I want Daryl to like the things I like, and I want to like the things that Daryl likes. We want to have things in common. Okay? That way we can be friends.
Just like
Okay.
Larry, Daryl.
Larry.
Larry, Daryl, and Daryl.
You don't
Well,
play golf.
but the point being is that God says, get rid of all that stuff because you're friends with me.
Right?
You need to love the things that I love and hate the things that I hate. They're doing the things I hate. Don't get to know it.
Yeah.
Get to know what I want and dwell on it. Okay? We miss that for some
Can't you
reason.
say the sheep change colors just by looking at different colors of sticks?
That's the goats. Yeah.
Okay.
What?
And the sheep, yeah.
Okay. So,
That's what your eyes fall on.
Sheep got spots just by looking at spotted sticks, and you don't think you're gonna pick that up.
okay. What did God say would happen if they didn't drive out the inhabitants?
That there would be thorns in there.
Thorns in their eyes, pricks in their sides, and they shall harass you in the land you dwell. And moreover, I'm going to do to you what I was going to do to them. I'm going to vomit you out of the land.
So what was Paul's thorn in the flesh?
Mm-hmm.
Paul's thorn in the flesh?
Had nothing to do with that?
I have no idea. I'm sure that it had something to do with that because it's the same comment.
I think.
Okay, well this deal, I got to get through here.
I think Shulam said something about that, and the thorn of his flesh was like the persecution he had done, right?
He must have made friends with some of the
Could have been some of the people he killed and the things he had done. Was
The memories?
things that he couldn't get rid of.
Probably
Mhm.
true.
Yeah.
I thought it was the Sadducees and Pharisees
Okay.
came against him.
Well, there was lots of stuff I wanted to cover, didn't have time. The only thing I want to mention was the first stop after the Exodus was called Sukkot. Why did they stop at Sukkot?
Check out Jacob, Joseph's.
Joseph's bones. Okay,
Maybe some wheat.
who was Joseph a picture of?
Christ.
The suffering servant and the King of Kings. In other words, he suffered, was in prison, but came from prison and ascended as the king of the world, so to speak. They stopped and picked up his bones,
The Redeemer.
the Redeemer, and brought him with him. Okay. We have to stop at Sukkot, the tabernacle in the wilderness, to see who our Savior is. I mean, because Yeshua descended to us, gave up everything, became poor for us. And for us to say that his words are done away with is blasphemy.
He gave us
It's,
manna.
it's calling God a liar. People don't understand that. They don't understand that when you say you don't have to keep God's commandments, you're calling God a liar.
I think the manna symbolizes his word too.
I think so. I mean, what does it say in Matthew 8:3 and in
I think it says, I don't disagree, but I think it says that you don't want to enter his rest. You don't want anything to do with it. Or at least you think you don't want anything to do with it.
Okay, well, I got my cartoon today of Calvin that sums it up for us. I feel bad that I've sinned by not keeping God's commandments. I'm sorry I did it. Maybe you should ask God for God's forgiveness. I keep hoping there's a less obvious solution. I mean, I think people have, that deal where it says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves, confess their sin, I will forgive them and heal their land. But if you don't think you've sinned, how can you confess it?
Right.
Or if you think your sin is okay.
Or if you don't think you are sinning, how
Yeah.
can you turn from it?
That's right. Okay, this is the end of Numbers. So, do y'all know what that means right there?
No,
Yes, you do.
I don't.
Okay. Say it with me together. Kazak, Kazak, Venitz, Kazak. And that means be strong, and may we be strengthened.
Oh,
Okay. At the end of every book in the Torah, we need to be strong and be strengthened.
yes, I did know that. I apologize.
Okay, one more. We got to get to the next week is Devarim, by the way. That's what that last one said. Join me in the blessing. Blessed art thou, Lord our God, King of the universe, who gave us the Torah of truth, Yeshua Meshikenu, and set everlasting life in our midst. Blessed art thou, O Lord, giver of the Torah. And in Hebrew, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet Yeshua Meshikenu bekayi olam beta betukenu Baruch atah Adonai noten ha-Torah. Okay, now I'll just do this one. Great peace have those who love your law. Nothing can make them stumble. And the way of the wicked is like darkness. They do not know what makes them stumble. All right. Sorry I didn't get through everything, but it's just too long.
It's all good. It's all good in the hood.
It's all good in the hood.
Yep.
That's how we roll.
Yeah. Well, thank y'all for being here, and do your best to make Ty feel bad for not being here.
All right.
I'm just teasing.
Oh, darn it.
Did he have success in Paris?
Yes,
He did.
except it was so funny. He